Yeah, so greetings and welcome to the channel. This is the real TBT. As we say, Thursdays are for TBT. And today we have another nice, awesome TBT. It's a book review, Primary English People's Book for Standard 6. And it was dubbed with the theme Marching Ahead. Yeah, so you remember the themes. For class 4, we had adventures. For class 5, we had neighbors. Class 6, marching ahead. Class 7, one more step. And class 8, stepping out. Yeah, so we are going to review this book. Okay, unfortunately, the cover is missing, as you can see. Part of the reason is because this book dates way back in 1994. So you can imagine a book, dating all that long, to be missing some pages, and of course the cover. It's inevitable. Yeah, so we have the forward there. It's quite important that we read it. It's by Professor J.M. Waithaka. He was the director of education then. Yeah, so as you can see, it's the third book in the series for the upper classes. Most importantly, he highlights that, in preparation for this course, attention has been given to 4 main language skills. However, the People's Book focuses mainly on reading, writing, while most of the oral work is contained in the teacher's book. Yeah, so you can see what they want to achieve with this book mainly is, reading and writing, and of course, they shall have some oral works. A lot of notes had been taken, to prepare this book and so on. It was piloted through some schools, sampled across the country. And of course, when they gave it the go-ahead, that's when now it was rolled out into the curriculum. Yes, by the Kenya Institute of Education. Yeah, so there we have the table of contents. I don't want to dwell much on the table of contents because it might preempt, the stories. Yeah, it is good that you keep the suspense on as we move on. Yes, so the first story, the noisy hornbill. Yeah, so the hornbill is a bird. It has a very weird beak. The hornbill was making noise in the forest, complaining about almost everything. My beak is hurting, my arm is paining and all that. So there was a ladybird in the forest who, figured this is getting out of hand, making this noise and all the stuff. So she tried to persuade, the other animals in the forest to kind of tell the hornbill to keep quiet instead of making noise. Unfortunately, none of them was able to go to the hornbill and say so because they felt it's not their problem. Making noise, it's none of their business. Yeah, so one day there was a hunter. This guy, a hunter, was passing by and he heard some noise. He figured he needs to hunt, for his family and all that. And that's how he hunted, the hornbill. Then all the other animals and other things that were there close by, they were affected because, he needed some mushroom, to go and boil the soup. He needed some tortoise, meat and all that. So he ended up collecting all the animals who were saying it's not their business, having the noise in the forest. Unfortunately, they were all cooked. And Ladybird was the only one remaining because the animal was tiny, as you can see there. And all the friends went by. So she was like, I told them they should tell him to keep quiet. But then unfortunately, they never listened. And it came to their demise. Yeah. So it's important that, even as you mind your own business, other people's business have a ripple effect on yours, then I think it's a high chance or time for you to mind about them too. Then we have, I don't know if it's a poem, Lazy Kimani. Yes, unfortunately we are missing some, pages here. As I said, it's an old book, 1994. So from that story we jump to the next one, and I think we are missing 3 stories, so they are not much. So if I happen to come across those pages, I might go. So we are missing story number 2, 3, and 4. So yeah, there are 3 stories. So that's negligible. Let us move on. So the 5th story is the drought. So they are saying, in this village they were a bit sad because the rains had subsided. They did not have much rains, so they were not sharing the stories, the normal stories they share around the fireplace after having their meals. We are told they have to do some interventions, like making some sacrifices to their gods and ancestors to see whether the rain will come by. But unfortunately, it never seemed to work. So we have an amazing picture there of a family resting under a shade. The same drought situation continues. Number 6, we have a visit to the port. So in this story, these kids, they reside in Mombasa, and they were taking like a tour to the port of Mombasa. As you can see, this is the map. Is the Mombasa town, Mombasa Island. Then we have Kilindini Harbour. We have Likoni. This is the ferry crossing, and then we have the Nyali Bridge, Old Harbour. I think it is nowadays called I don't know if it's English Creek or Marina Creek, I don't recall. Fort Jesus. So those are some of the iconic landmarks, and they took a tour of the place, admiring some of the ships that were docking there, and they were being explained to by their father, this is a big ship, and then we have a tugboat that goes to kind of guide the ship into the harbor, and it's called a pilot boat if I'm not wrong. Yes, so you can see them there. So this is Likoni, channel. We have, I think, Shelly Beach if I'm not wrong. I've been to Mombasa. I've stayed there for like a few years, like 2 years working there. I was at my uncle's place. So I used to, roam around. But I used to recall this map. And I recall all these pictures they were seeing. This harbor here. And from here, I used to walk around here. This is called Shimanzi, this area. Shimanzi and all that. Story number 7, it's about, a guy called Nuru. Yes. Nuru, it is said that as they were playing, football, he figured he was not seeing the ball. He was missing the ball a lot. And it's because maybe he was not seeing well. So unfortunately, he later on turned blind and all that. So they were kind of sensitizing the students about some of them may be subjected to strange conditions and how they are supposed to cope with such conditions. So the student was given materials, to kind of read along. He would record the lessons using a tape recorder, and he was taught Braille, as you can see there on that photo. And he managed, to succeed in his schoolwork, and later on became a lawyer. So it's quite an inspiring story. And as you can see there, we have the Braille. Part of the exercise, you have, the Braille. And I don't know if you know the alphabets. Like A, it's marked by 1 dot. B, there are 2 dots there. And so on and so forth. Yeah. So they were given an exercise, actually, the students, to kind of make a letter to the society, for the blind, to request for some reading gadgets. So as we read the forward there earlier on from Professor, he was saying the book is to support the students in reading and writing. So you can see this is such an exercise. They can relate to what they read in the earlier story, and they can be able to formulate a formal letter. Story number 8, the hare and hyena. Yeah, so the students here in this story, they had visited their grandmother, and she was giving them a folk story. So I think, prior to now formal education, maybe prior to 60s, the main way in which young children were taught is through such folk stories. They would sit around the fire and be given the stories. Yeah, so in this case, they were told hyena and hare, they used to have some sheep and cattle together, and they would take turns in grazing the cattle in the forest. So hyena was preying on hare's cattle. Later on, hare devised a way to see whether hyena was the one behind, because the cattle kept on disappearing day in, day out. He took an exercise and he told them, one day he monitored them as they were grazing the cattle in the fields, and he figured, hyena was the one eating his cattle. So on that day, he made an exercise. He made them to jump over some ropes, and because they were full, their bellies were full, they were unable to jump, and they had to part ways. As you can see, this used to be the thing, you gather around a fire and you share some stories from your grandmothers and your grandfathers, which is very interesting. Personally, my grandmothers used to share stories to us. Both the maternal and paternal grandmothers, they used to share some stories to us, and they were quite, exhilarating, if that's the word. Number 9, first aid. The students were taught, about different forms of first aid from St. John's Ambulance. Someone from a facilitator from St. John's was the one teaching them. Yeah, ranging from treating wounds and nose bleeding and all that, which is interesting for the students to learn. Yep. Bado tunaona picha tunakumbuka hizi picha za kitambo. Story number 10, Chedi and Namvua. Yeah, so these are students, and one of them was visiting in the village. She used to reside and study in Mombasa. So, and they had to visit, in Undanyi in Taita Hills. Yeah, so as you can see there, they are doing different activities, making pots. They had to go to the market and sell some produce. So, some of these stories were crafted strategically. As you can see, it is story number 10. And in the entire book, we have 28 stories. So, if you divide 28 by around, how many terms did we have in school? There are 3 terms. So, you can have either 9 or 10, approximately 9 or 10 stories in each term. So, by the time they hit story number 10, they're given like an idea of how, you visit during the holidays, you go maybe to the village, the kind of things you do there. So, I think these are stories that are relatable to them, the students. At least they can relate, and it's easier for them to follow along. And as you can see, story number 11, again another one, A Journey by Matatu. Yes, so in this one, this guy had visited the grandparents during the holidays, so he was returning back home. And as you can see, this is a matatu. This is a matatu means a van, a public transport van, and but it is given the name matatu. This word matatu in Swahili we call it misimu or seasonal words. These are seasonal words. These are words that come by based on current seasons, and they might stick and become like the normal day-to-day words or vocabularies that we use. Yeah, so for example, matatu is coined from way back in the days. For you, most of the public vans, they used to charge 3 pennies. So 3 in Swahili is tatu. Yeah, so people would be fond of saying, these, vans, they're charging 3 pennies. So they're charging matatu. Yeah, mapenny matatu. So from that, the name stuck up until today, 2025, we still use the name matatu for public transport means. Yeah, so the guy was moving in a matatu, and you can see these were the old design. They were face me matatus. Yeah, as they were moving on, the matatu was overcrowded, and the guy, was sitting down. An old lady came in, he gave her the seat, and then the police, caught them, and they was forced to step out and board another matatu. Yeah, so it's like giving a scenario on what was taking place during the holidays. And as you can see, the guy crafted a poem called O Matatu. Number 12, we have the National Museum. So the students were about to pay a visit to the National Museum, so they drafted a letter to the museum and requesting to visit there. They were given an opportunity to visit, and as you can see, these are some of the things they saw there. Quite an amazing. So if it was today, in the modern day, we have an additional museum of illusions. So I'm sure they would have visited there too. Yeah. Number 13, we have what caused the fire. Yep, so it's some sort of a play, and as you can see, we have characters there. We have a layout of the play. So in this case, they are saying the mother woke up and the firewood was wet. She could not light a fire, so she got angry, like the typical African mothers would do. In the morning, Paragasha, you, what you are doing? You guys, wake up, blah blah blah. So it created a ripple effect. The mother was angry because because of the firewood. His husband was angry because there was no breakfast and he was about to be late to work. The kids were angry too because the breakfast was late and they had to do their homework, and it was in the morning. I think the African mother, called one of the ladies silly, so she was angry, and as she was doing the homework, she kicked the cat. The cat went ahead and dropped a candle, and there was a fire in the house. So later on, they reconciled and they were saying the reason as to why we had the fire is because they followed the series of the events, and at the end of it all, they said each and every one was responsible because of the anger. It had a ripple effect, and the house was burned. Yeah, so it is good not to be angry, in the morning. I don't know what's up in the mornings. Usually a lot of saga in the mornings. Story number 14, an agricultural club. Yes, so in this club, 4K, the students were thinking of activities they can do, agricultural activities. Some of them were suggesting they rear cows, but then it was, too much, so they resorted into basic farming, seed beds and other crops there. And, they were making good produce. They were making good money from it. Number 15, 3 sky poems. So we have the clouds, the sun, and at night. Yeah. So self-explanatory. Yeah. Number 16, the missing keys. one of the students. She was a prefect. She had keys to a teacher's cupboard, and then in the morning as they were preparing and all that and playing around, she lost some keys. And then later on, they went to the field and they found the keys, somewhere there in the field. Yes. Number 17, a visit to the show. So in this case, these students, they visited the show, the Agricultural Society of Kenya show. It's an exhibition, very big and very huge, a lot of stuff going on there. So as you can see there in the stadium, we had some acrobats, we had some military parades, and we have dancers. The show is made up of so many things, so many sections. Wildlife, we have corporate sections, we have agricultural sections, we have the stadiums and all that. And actually I've done a video on this, a visit to the show. We used to dread to go to the show when we were in school. So up here above, there's a link. If you have not watched, you can head on, you can click on and watch how I made a visit to the show, and I documented it in a video. There's a lot to see, by the way. Yes. Number 18, newspapers. So in this story, they were kind of, going through the different types of newspapers we have. As you can see there, we have excerpts from the newspapers. They were being given. As you can see, we have the sections of a newspaper: the African News, World Report, Business News, Parliament. Yes. So they were kind of being given another excerpt here. It was one of the clubs here in Kenya, Gor Mahia. They won the Mandela Cup. And I don't know, it was in 1990 or something there. So Gor Mahia has been around for long. Yeah. 19. Part 2 of the newspapers again. So they were still being given insights. And we had junior readers, newspapers, junior magazines every Sunday. It was called junior readers or something. If you recall the segment for the kids that was there in the newspapers, in the Daily Nation, maybe you can share with us down there in the comment section. Yeah, it used to have segments like Kajairo, Sijui, Batman, and some lyrics which used to cut on and stick on our books. It was pretty fun back then. And then we have there's normally a section where we have cartoon with some message behind it. I don't know if it's page 14 or 16, one of those. Yeah, both newspapers, the Standard and Daily Nation in our country. Yeah. And by the way, those are the two main, newspapers. But then we have others, such as People Daily. By the way, Media, they used to have a newspaper, if I'm not wrong, back in the days. And it used to be called The Leader. Because I remember in the morning as I was preparing to go to school, they would do a newspaper review and they would prioritize, the media stations would prioritize The Leader newspaper to be the first one. And then I don't know what happened to The Leader. It's like, Raw Media pulled out of the newspaper business and they went on, launching radio stations and TV stations, and they are thriving. So I guess in the blue ocean strategy, they decided to swim in the blue ocean instead of the red ocean where we have the sharks. Tell us if by the way you ever read the Leader newspaper. You can tell us how it was down there in the comment section. Number 20, Mkulima and his neighbors. Yeah, so this guy Mkulima was owning a farm. Then we had some domestic animals out there in the world. They decided, we can go and request Mkulima if he can take us in. So the cows, sheep, goats, all that, they joined together and they joined him. They offered to be giving him milk and all other produce. Then, unfortunately, there was an issue. An incident happened. The wild animals came and they invaded the farm. They broke the fence, as you can see there, and they trampled on everything on the farm. So mkulima called a meeting, and Lion again was the one representing the wild animals. So they had a reconciliation meeting, and this story sort of explains why we have domestic and wild animals, rifts apart. Yeah, it is because of this incident. It's a folk story, so to speak. And I'm assuming this mkulima, this photo here was the one in the cover, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, so it was the one in the cover there. Mkulima holding up the torch with the animals. So it's like they are marching, Yeah. 21, looking after Ngato. Yes. Again, this coincides with the holidays. Story number 21. Again, this could be the end of term 2. So we are told the mother to these kids went to the market, and then the little kid Ngato was feeling unwell. I think she had a stomachache or something and diarrhea. So the mother came. She was called from the market. She came. She gave her some water, a mixture of water and salt she took, and then they went to the hospital. And actually the doctor said they did well to, giving the child the water. Actually, the purpose of salt and sugar in water, it's kind of rejuvenate or add or recover the, lost water during the diarrhea. Yeah, so it's like replacing the lost electrolytes into the body. So that was the essence, actually, why we used to take salt water when our stomach is having issues, because we are bound to lose water. Let's move on. Story number 22, volleyball. It's like a highlight, about the volleyball. It's one of the popular sports here in Kenya. Those are the dimensions for the court. They are emphasizing it's important to have a warm-up, before any sports. I'm not sure what we can call these moves, but maybe, people who are conversant with these exercises. For example, yoga with Goga. I'm sure you can know these moves, yeah? These are, I think, squats. I don't know what that is. Yeah. Then from there, they give a highlight on how to serve the ball, how to receive, how to make the scores, what comprises of a set, and all that. I don't know, which is your most interesting sports? For me, my best favorite sports, darts and table tennis. Indoor games, so to speak. Yeah. Those are my favorites. Okay, we are moving on. 23, after the storm. So in this case, we are told, after the holidays, as they resumed back to schools, there was a big storm, and the classrooms were destroyed by the storm. So these people had to come together, the spirit of Harambe, and build the storms. Back then, we never used to have CDF in these schools, so it's the community had to join hands and raise funds, offer themselves, as you can see there, in manual labor to do the construction, and they resumed back to school. So number 24, in this case, we are told the students, they had a big sister who was working at Kenya Airways, at JKIA, and she offered them a tour to the airport. So they went ahead, they, toured around the vicinity. They had a chance to board the flight. Okay, not to board the flight, to board the planes and, look at the cockpit and other places. I don't know, is this could not be a Boeing. It looks so. This could be, is it called McDouglas or McDonnell Douglas? Oh, aviators in the house, please tell us, based on the cockpit outlook, what's the nature of this, plane. My guess it's a DC-9, if I'm not wrong. But then again, I don't know. So if you can tell us, yeah. The Magdagras. What about this one? What? This is a Fokker 50. 25, the Magic Calabash. So this guy by the name Getaha, he was a farmer, and there was a farming around the area. There were a few rains. So as he was looking, desperate in his farm, he came across a calabash that has grown there, and it had like a human head in it. So he plucked it, went with it to the house, and to his surprise, he tapped the calabash and made a wish, and it was fulfilled. His bowl was full of meat, so he ate the meat. His wife joined him, and made some wishes. As you can see, the house was restocked. So he decided to keep the calabash to himself. And then, unfortunately, everyone was noting that this guy is making, money, and we don't know what is going on because we are experiencing farming in our land. Yeah, so a guy came and stole the calabash, went ahead and tapped it, then make it rain some money, Unfortunately, he never knew the method to make it stop, Once you make a wish, there was a certain, secret you had to do. You had to tap it twice for it to stop. So it never stopped. It rained. The guy broke his legs and all that. And unfortunately, the calabash was broken, and that was the end of it. Story number 26, electricity. Different forms of electricity, as you can see there, self-explanatory. Process of generating electricity, and also further uses. 27, Parents' Day. So as you can see, the students, they were engaged, in preparing for Parents' Day. As you can see the story, it's towards the end of the story, because this could be the second last story. So it's some sort of an AGM. The parents, they come together, with the students and the teachers. They chat the way forward. They're given maybe the progress report and all that. Yes, so we used to enjoy these Parents' Days because, at least you get visitation from your parents and all that. You can see even they slaughtered a goat for them. Number 28, Maringo. So it's a play, and the characters here, they match, their behaviors. We are told Maringo. Okay, up top there we are told Mama Busara is a wise old woman. Maringo means pride in English. Yeah, it's a rich businessman. Mvumilivu, patience, Sadaka. They had their only daughter, Mpole. So the characters match their names. And in this story, we are told this guy Maringo was a businessman, a very shrewd and rude businessman. So he went to the market. There was a wise, lady there who used to sell herbs. Maringo stumbled of the herbs, and, he called her a witch and all that. So when he went home, the daughter got sick, and they had sought medication from all over, but they could not find anyone who could treat their daughter. So later on, they were recommended the lady who was selling herbs, and the man was so, ashamed of himself because of the incident he had earlier with the woman at the market. So the woman came with the herbs, treated the daughter, and the rich man was kind of humbled, and he apologized for the entire incident. So this mirrors the story of, is it Naaman in the Bible? Yeah, where he had the leprosy, and a little girl, a servant girl at his place suggested there's he can receive healing back home. And what transpired? The story is in Second Kings. You can go and read it. So we have come to the end of the book. As you can see, the price there back then was 175 Kenya shillings. Well, back when inflation was not quite high. Yeah, so there we go. Marching ahead was the book review. I've done several others for class 7 and class 8 as well. So the cards will appear somewhere here as we end this video, so you can head on there and also check out the book. Yeah, so thank you so much for listening in. Thank you so much for watching. This is the Real TBT Kenya. Thursdays are for TBT. And don't forget to give this video a like. See you on the next video.